The last time we covered the build-up to DC's Infinite Crisis event, it was the OMAC Project, a story that explored the role the Justice League often plays in the DC Universe. This time, with this story, Day of Vengeance, we'll be covering the role magic plays in the DCU.
Magic has always played a substantial role at DC. Action Comics often contain backup stories about a heroic magician named Zatara. The Justice Society included characters like Dr. Fate and the Spectre. It would even be revealed that magic was as big a threat to Superman as kryptonite. And of course, I would be remiss if I didn't point out that such magic heroes, or homo magi as DC classifies them, like Swamp Thing, John Constantine, and Animal Man would form the basis for DC's acclaimed Vertigo imprint.
But before we can tackle Day of Vengeance, we need to touch on one of its principal players, Captain Marvel. Now, I think you all know the story. Billy Batson was a young boy who was granted magical powers by a wizard named Shazam that allowed him to turn into a superhero named Captain Marvel upon recitation of the wizard's name. You may also know that the character proved so popular that it was beginning to outsell Superman, and this kind of resulted in National Comics Publications, the company that would eventually become DC, suing Fawcett Publications, the group that was publishing Captain Marvel comics at the time, for trademark infringement on Superman.
The funny thing is, Fawcett actually won the case. However, it had been tied up in the legal system for so long that the company basically ran out of money. Fawcett would wind up selling the rights to Captain Marvel to DC. DC would look to revive Captain Marvel in the early 1970s. The twist here is that the trademark on the name Captain Marvel had lapsed. In fact, two different Captain Marvel comic series had launched in that downtime. One by a company called MF Enterprises, and one by Marvel Comics, where the mantle of Captain Marvel would be worn by several characters. We've even covered one, Monica Rambeau. Basically, while DC could publish a Captain Marvel comic, they couldn't call the comic Captain Marvel. Instead, the character would appear under the banner of Shazam, though he would still be Captain Marvel within the comic itself.
Confused yet? Well, basically what I'm getting at is, since the character in the comics is referred to as Captain Marvel, I will refer to him as Captain Marvel. The Wizard Shazam, I will refer to as either Shazam or the Wizard Shazam. I think that makes enough sense. And with that, we can finally tackle Day of Vengeance. Now, I should point out that the first three parts of this story originally ran in the three Superman comics that were published at the time.
Captain Marvel is summoned by Shazam. The wizard explains that an old enemy has returned, and it could be the beginning of the end. Elsewhere across the country, people in various states of anger have begun committing suicide in gruesome ways. This includes an attempted suicide bomber in Metropolis. However, Superman arrives to minimize the damage. Afterwards, a woman who is one of the witnesses tries to talk to Superman. He recognizes her as a scientist at Star Labs, but she then suffers a lapse in memory. Chalking it all up to traumatic shock, Superman puts her into an ambulance. Clark Kent then returns to the Daily Planet and begins researching all the recent suicides. He finds some connections. All the people were unusually angry at the time of their actions, and all suicides happened at night. Meanwhile, at Star Labs, the woman Superman talked to earlier kills a security guard and makes her way towards a room containing one of the old battle suits that Lex Luthor would use on Superman. She would enter the suit and blast through the Star Labs ceiling. Superman arrives, but he knows he needs to be careful. After all, he's fighting Eclipso.
Eclipso is the name given to the embodiment of God's wrath, which is housed in a black diamond known as the Heart of Darkness. Eclipso possesses whoever comes into contact with this diamond, and Eclipso's powers increase whenever the sun is down or under an eclipse, hence the name Eclipso. Conversely, Eclipso's powers are weakened by exposure to sunlight.
Superman does all his best to take on Eclipso without getting too aggressive, since the creature has set all of this up in order to possess the body of the Man of Steel. Eventually, Eclipso exits the battlesuit and leaps over the side of a skyscraper in an attempt to get Superman to catch the woman before she hits the sidewalk below. Superman, though, is able to halt the woman's fall with his super breath. When Superman reaches the ground, he finds the scientist is no longer under Eclipso's control. Unfortunately, Superman is unable to locate the Heart of Darkness. Sometime later, Clark Kent returns home to his apartment where Lois has been writing her article on the Eclipso-Superman encounter. However, Lois's article seems to vent severely in Eclipso's favor. Clark questions why, and Lois states that she has to write the article the way she sees it.
Why Lois felt the need to write the story wearing only a t-shirt and a pair of devil panties, I'll never know. Oh wait, actually I do know. Someone on the DC creative staff really wanted to see Lois Lane in her underwear.
Clark gets increasingly upset with Lois, who just smiles and jams the Heart of Darkness into Superman's forehead. Now in control of a new body, Eclipso takes off, only to immediately run into Captain Marvel. The two begin fighting, with Eclipso now trying to egg on Captain Marvel. Marvel realizes that he, not Superman, was the one that Eclipso is really after and wishes to possess. This causes Captain Marvel to repeatedly call down the magic name of Shazam and utilize the constant magic lightning strikes to hit Eclipso. Weakened, Superman begins to assert control over his body and asks Captain Marvel to kill him. Sensing that it might be a trap, Marvel eases up and Eclipso breaks free. Marvel calls on the lightning once again, except this time Eclipso grabs Billy Batson by the throat, preventing him from returning to Captain Marvel. It's then that the wizard Shazam enters the fray, and he's brought along someone else, the Spectre. The Spectre drives Eclipso out of Superman's body.
If you remember my review of the Green Arrow Quiver storyline, the Spectre is the spirit of vengeance in the DC Universe. You may also remember that the Spectre was bonded to disgraced Green Lantern Hal Jordan. Well, leading into this story, a series of events occurred where Jordan was able to return to the land of the living and resume being a Green Lantern, and this left the Spectre without a human host once more.
In the wake of the expulsion of Eclipso, the Spectre chastises Shazam. The Spectre explains that his powers are greatly reduced due to the lack of a human host. The Spectre also explains that he's lost track of the Heart of Darkness. Shazam accepts that Eclipso will now declare war on all of magic. Elsewhere, the Heart of Darkness makes its way to Gotham City, Arkham Asylum in particular. There, the diamond is discovered by Jean Loring.
Jean Loring is the ex-wife of Ray Palmer, aka the Atom. At one point, she found one of the Atom's size-changing suits and used it to try to play a prank on a friend. Unfortunately, this resulted in the friend's death, and it drove Jean crazy to the point that she wound up concocting a scheme that she hoped would result in her and Ray reconciling. Unfortunately, Ray was able to piece it together and wound up committing Jean to Arkham Asylum.
Point that we enter the Day of Vengeance series proper. The main focus of the story is a group of lesser-known Homo Magi, including Blue Devil, a former stuntman who was bonded to a demon costume in an accident and later transformed into a demon in exchange for success in Hollywood. Nightmaster, a former rock singer turned bar owner who was a member of a mystic night order called the Myra. Nightshade, who has the ability to wield a dark alternate dimension for teleportation purposes. After that, we have the Enchantress. Not that Enchantress, guys. This Enchantress is a hero-turned-villain for whom magic can act like a narcotic. Detective Chimp, a circus chimpanzee who gained human intelligence after drinking from the Fountain of Youth. And Ragman, a Jewish hero powered by the magic of the Kabbalah, whose suit of rags contained the subsorbed souls of sinners seeking redemption.
With that, let's actually enter the proper miniseries of Day of Vengeance.
After absorbing the soul of a serial killer, Ragman is mystically called to an isolated forest. There he finds an injured but still conscious Enchantress, along with the dead bodies of several other magic practitioners. When asked what happened, Enchantress points up to the sky, and Ragman looks to see the Spectre engaged in a fight with a villain named Blackbriar Thorn. Enchantress explains that the Spectre showed up and started killing every magic-powered individual, evil or good. The two decide to make haste to a possible safe haven, the Oblivion Bar, the tavern operated by Jim Rook, aka the Nightmaster. Upon arrival, Ragman and the Enchantress find the establishment packed with other magic heroes. After hearing the story about the Spectre wiping out several Atlantean colonies, Ragman speaks up. He suggests banding together and maybe getting one of the major practitioners of magic like the Phantom Stranger to take out the Spectre. It's then that Detective Chimp makes himself known. He breaks the news that the Phantom Stranger has already confronted the Spectre, and now the Phantom Stranger has been turned into a mouse.
First appearing in 1952, the Phantom Stranger often appeared as a mystical assistant to various DC superheroes. In fact, at one point, Superman vouched for his inclusion in the Justice League of America. However, the Stranger disappeared before a membership could be formally offered. His origin remained a mystery until just recently in the New 52, where it was revealed that the Stranger was actually the soul of Judas Iscariot, the man who betrayed Jesus Christ, and the Stranger is forced to wear a necklace made of the 30 pieces of silver that he betrayed Jesus for.
Detective Chimp talks Enchantress into using her powers to scan for the Spectre's memory. In doing so, she discovers the truth. The Spectre, having been drained of much of his power due to the lack of a human host, is approached by Eclipso, now in possession of Jean Loring's body. Eclipso manages to get the Spectre to believe that his mission is to eliminate all magic from the planet Earth. This causes the bar to clear out of all but 6 people. Elsewhere, the Wizard Shazam dispatches Captain Marvel to at least delay the Spectre until the Wizard has gathered enough power to take the Spectre out. Back at the bar, the 6 remaining Hobo Magi get to work on a plan at trying to slow the Spectre down, except for Chimp, who only thinks about what to name their new group. Eventually, they split up, with Nightmaster, Blue Devil, Ragman, and Enchantress going to the area that Ragman and Enchantress saw the Spectre battling Blackbriar Thorn. Meanwhile, the Chimp and Nightshade go to Dayton, Ohio, and attempt to locate a very powerful magic practitioner. Enchantress manages to pick up the Spectre's mystical trail, and then takes Ragman for a private moment. She gives him a special gun in order to use on her if she starts losing control of her magic. Ragman points out that if push comes to shove, he can absorb her into his costume and at least give her a shot at redemption. He then goes in for a kiss. It turns out that he was a tad presumptuous in that last move, and she's not really interested. Enchantress tells Ragman not to do that again, and then proceeds to blab about the failed attempt at romance to Devil and Nightmaster, who promptly mock Ragman as the foursome journey on after the Spectre. Meanwhile, in Dayton, Detective Chimp and Nightshade manage to locate the person they are looking for at the home of the Zeklin family. Mr. Zeklin answers the door, and Chimp asks if Laurie can come out and play. Back with the others, they manage to reach the Spectre and find him fighting Captain Marvel with Eclipso looking on. The group tries taking on Eclipso, with Ragman attempting to absorb her. Eclipso manages to blow apart the rags, distressing Ragman due to the hundreds of souls now lost. Meanwhile, Enchantress hangs back and begins trying to channel her magic into Captain Marvel. She then tries to expand the magic by imploring Homo Magi from around the world to try channeling their magic through her and into Captain Marvel. Magic begins to flow, even from Chimp and Nightshade, causing them to begin zoning out on the Zeklin couch as Laurie comes home. Unfortunately, this proves to be too much, and the darker aspects of Enchantress's personality begin to come out. This allows the Spectre to gain the upper hand in the battle on Captain Marvel. Eventually, the others manage to knock the Enchantress out, and then everyone on both sides falls back to begin licking their wounds. Captain Marvel, Enchantress, and the others return to the Oblivion Bar. Detective Chimp, Nightshade, and Laurie Zeklin also arrive. Chimp explains why Laurie is needed. Laurie Zeklin has the ability to temporarily absorb magic powers. So if she could absorb the powers of the Spectre, then maybe they could manage to take both him and Eclipso out. While the others plan a strategy of attack, Captain Marvel excuses himself to return to Shazam at the Rock of Eternity. Upon his arrival, Marvel meets up with Shazam, who says he's ready. The group, now referring to themselves as the Shadow Pact, journey to an island in Indonesia to lure the Spectre and Eclipso into a trap. The two take the bait as the group goes after Eclipso, while Laurie hangs back and begins working on absorbing the Spectre's power. It works, and the Shadow Pact turns their attention to the Spectre. Unfortunately, without power, the Spectre is merely a disembodied spirit, with no corporeality. Laurie then begins to lose her grip on the Spectre's powers. Once back in control, the Spectre heads off to the Rock of Eternity. At the Rock, Captain Marvel comes out to confront the Spectre, only for the spirit to evoke the name of Shazam, causing Marvel to revert back to Billy Batson. The Spectre then enters the Rock of Eternity to take on Shazam. Back with the Shadow Pact, they manage to gain the upper hand on Eclipso, with Nightshade and Nightmaster teleporting her off Earth and locking her in a perpetual orbit around the sun. They then return to find a restored Phantom Stranger. The fight on the Rock of Eternity is causing massive surges in magic. On the Rock of Eternity, Shazam and the Spectre continue fighting as the rock begins falling apart around them. Shazam points out that the Spectre cannot destroy magic. All he is doing is causing it to flood all over the Earth. The Spectre is having none of this, though, and begins crushing Shazam's head. This causes a massive power surge as the Rock of Eternity explodes. Back on Earth, the Shadow Pact takes everything in as they sense magic, both good and evil, including the purest forms of the 7 deadly sins, affecting people all over the world. They know that Shazam is dead, and the Spectre is still out there. And they know they need to stop him.
And that concludes Day of Vengeance. How does it compare to the OMAC project? Well, there are some advantages. Namely, the Superman tie-in issues are included in this trade where they weren't in this trade. Also, I feel the writing is a bit tighter paced, a bit brisker. It just flowed nicer, it was easier to read. That being said, the artwork I think is a bit of a drawback on both of these stories. It does get a little unnecessarily cheesecakey in some points. Now, look, I like seeing pretty girls. I'll admit it. That being said, why does pretty much every female character in these stories is either... I mentioned the Lois Lane thing before, but like I said, and in Day of Vengeance proper, pretty much every female character is shown in some form of cleavage-exposing top. The lone exception being Nightshade. Also, you have Lori Zeklin, who's supposed to be like 16 years old, with a clearly visible thong. Again, like I said, I'm not opposed to seeing pretty girls, but even I've got to have some limits at some points. But overall, this story is pretty good, and if you were wanting to know more about the magic side of the DC Universe, I would recommend that part. So, I am going to give Day of Vengeance a very low B. It's right on the borderline between B and C. Maybe call that a B minus. I don't know. And with that, let's see what we'll be doing next time on the Random Trade Review. Just a sec, I've drawn 2 here, I think. Okay.